384-2191.
Well, here we are this final Friday in June with the Inside program coming to you live here on AM 1450 WDLB. You may be watching us, so Marshfield Media Access here, because the final Friday of the month we welcome to the studio Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker. Good morning.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here, Jeff. Thanks for having us.
Well, no problem. I'm glad you come in and talk here. We have some situations. I said this, I'll reiterate what I meant before, is that when I talked with Tom Reichert or other people, I'd say, oh, the sheriff's coming in. What are we going to talk about? Stole pumpkins, It's like living in Mayberry. There's never anything happens here. And now we've got guns discharged for the first time in a long time that I can remember. Take me through what's happening.
Yeah, tragic incident happened a couple weeks ago in Arpin, and we're still working through it. One of the worst phone call that I ever received, off duty, if you want to call. I'm really never off duty as sheriff, but and Captain Ellis called and advised that one of our two of our deputies were involved in a shooting, and one of them had been shot. I can't tell you the emotions that were going on. I didn't know all the information at the time. You just go. So I went up to the scene in Arpin on 186, just south of County Highway N, and we're working through it. Right now, I know all the names are released. The deputies that were involved were Nate Dean and Corey Lee. And with interaction with somebody that we were checking on a welfare check, Logan Johnsrud was shot and is unfortunately deceased. And our thoughts and prayers go out with the family that lost a loved one. We're moving forward. The department's moving forward. Corey Lee did get shot, and he'll probably be off work for at least 4 to 6 months. Currently, DCI, the state, is doing the investigation. By statute, whenever you have a situation like this, you have to have an outside agency do the investigation. And DCI has done quite a bit of those with the state, throughout the state with other law enforcement agencies. So what is going to happen from here is once they complete the investigation, it'll get forwarded to the Wood County District Attorney's Office for review, and then the District Attorney will decide if the officers were justified or particular one, Nate Dean. And then from there, he returns to duty. So Corey's recovering. Like I said, he'll probably be off work for 4 to 6 months, and like I said, we'll wait until the investigation's completed and then reviewed by our district attorney.
So what happens from here? The assailant is dead. There's no charges going to be against him. What's the investigation to? Is there any going to be charges? Or when you said DA, I went, well, that's usually when there's something going to happen.
That's protocol. They review the investigation that DCI does, and then basically there's not going to be any charges. There shouldn't be any charges. It'll be up to the district attorney if there would be any charges for anybody. What the district attorney will rule on or advise on will be whether or not the officer was justified or not. That's what the next phase is going to be once the investigation is completed. And DCI usually has their investigation, or at least something, to a district attorney's office. Their goal is 30 days, and hoping that that'll happen. But it's going to be up to their investigation. I know they're still working on it. We still have to wait for reports from the pathologist and other experts that work for the state, ballistics and things of that nature.
Outside of the internal investigation in these type matters, could be some families or civil. Have you heard anything of anybody?
Not at this time. DCI has been handling press releases and interaction with the family. Like I said, our thoughts and prayers are with them. We know they lost a loved one, and the department's moving forward. That's all we can do at this point is wait for the investigation to conclude, and then go to the next step would be their DA's office and move forward from there.
When I saw you on the local television that night, the report came in and you were stating that there had been a helicopter involved. There had been someone that was, a gun had been discharged, a deputy had been wounded, and it was in the arm. And I thought to myself, you don't necessarily need a helicopter for an arm wound. So there was more involved than what you were saying right at the very opening. Did you not know, or were you just being cautious?
No, I knew where Corey Lee was shot, and it was in the arm area, and that's customary for somebody in that type of an injury to get med flighted. And there's 2 helicopters that were dispatched there, one for the other person involved, Logan Johnsrud, because we were doing life-saving measures on scene, and it's customary in those types of situations where somebody's suffered a gunshot, you're most likely going to get flown, unless you're, in close proximity to a trauma center and you're in Marshfield. That's customary. We see that even with car accidents. If there's any type of significant trauma, you're going to get flown to a trauma center, and the closest one, thankfully, within our county is in Marshfield. So when I arrived on scene, Corey was in the helicopter, and I didn't get an opportunity to see him. They were just leaving. So it was very emotional to be there and to know what happened. And I wasn't guarded on what I was saying. I didn't know all the information because when we're there, the DCI is dispatched there immediately. They're handling the investigation. What we're doing is handling, the perimeter of keeping the scene safe. Handling, we had to immediately, call in deputies to handle other complaints on the road. One thing I'll say is all the other law enforcement agencies stepped up to help. We had people from Pittsfield PD on scene, Wisconsin Rapids PD, Marshfield, the other agencies, Nakusa, Grand Rapids, Port Edwards, immediately started to handle, complaints and calls to service throughout the county. Everybody just stepped up to help, and even when Corey was flown to Marshfield, there were Marshfield officers here waiting for him. It's just that brotherhood of all working together, and it really showed that evening, even while the investigation was ongoing, or just the start of it. But like I said, when I spoke with the media, I gave the information I had at that time. And now from here, as far as anything investigation specific, that has to be run through DCI.
Put your headphones on there. We'll invite Mike Warren in from the newsroom here. He's got a question or comment for you as well. Go ahead,
Sure.
Mike.
Just a quick question, Sheriff. So you said, Corey Lee is recovering, obviously off duty. What is the protocol for Nate Dean at this time?
At this time, he's on both deputies are on administrative leave, and that's pending the outcome of the investigation. So they're on paid leave, and then once DCI completes that investigation, it gets forwarded to the district attorney's office, and then, like I said, the district attorney will give an opinion in reference to justification, and that's protocol. DCI, like I said, by state statute, we have to have an outside agency do the investigation, and then that's turned over to the local district attorney's office. They can decide to, send that out to a different district attorney's office if they want, or make the ruling themselves. There was something recently that happened over in Outagaming County. There was an officer involved shooting there where an EMT lost his life, and their district attorney came out publicly and cleared the officer involved in that. And that's protocol. So that's what we're waiting on. I'd like to see it done sooner than later, but we can't rush things with this type of an investigation.
Well, in the meantime, I'm sure that both officers, but especially Nate Dean, is going through some sort of debriefing after a traumatic incident such as this one.
Well, the entire department does. There were so many people that were involved in this tragedy. We had, several EMTs from the area. Like I had mentioned, other law enforcement agencies. The crisis worker that was involved. There was so many other components that responded to that incident. So the first thing that happened was afterwards was a debriefing with all the people that were involved. We have a critical response team that responds to these types of incidents, and we do debriefings, and we'll continue to do that with the deputies that were involved with this. We're really paying attention to the officers' wellness, the mental health aspect of this. And we have a lot of things in place for, not only just the 2 deputies that were involved, but our department as well. That's very, very important. Our administration feels that is a huge component moving forward, moving the department forward, is having the resources, the counselors, people that have been through this type of a situation before available to talk to not only, the 2 deputies involved, but, other people, such as myself. It's hard. It's still hard to talk about, but we have to move forward, move the department forward, and go from there.
All right. Well, thank you for those answers. It's got to be difficult to deal with. Obviously, you can tell it, just by hearing you talk about it. It's not, and it's obviously, it's never the outcome that you want.
No, it's not. It's not at all. We were there to help people. And this was a welfare check that was called in, and we were going through our protocol, working with crisis, and the situation didn't turn out the way we wanted it to. But like I said, we're going through our protocol right now, and our department's focus at this point is the department's wellness, the officer's wellness, as DCI does their investigation.
With 2 officers on administrative leave, do you hire or bring in 2 temporary officers to fill their spots?
No, that's a good point, because it did short us for, Corey's going to be off for, I would estimate 4 to 6 months recovering from a broken arm. And then we have to wait until the district attorney reviews the investigation and the report. So we're short. We've filled some shifts by moving people from other shifts, and we've also had to fill a couple of shifts with overtime. We also have somebody else on leave as well for another medical issue. So, we're short right now, but we're making sure that the road is covered, either by moving people voluntarily from a different shift or, filling it with overtime. We did have 1 deputy step up, Deputy Brandon Christensen, who was on day shift, and since both Nate and Corey were on the same shift, that shift now is going to be short for probably an estimate of 2 months. And he voluntarily moved to that shift from a day shift position, which was very helpful, and very nice for Brandon to help the department out under this circumstance.
Okay, well, we obviously it's kind of one of the, it's not the talk of the town really, but it's one of the big stories that A, we're following, and B, we're all kind of concerned, about what's happening with these guys. We all know them, we know their families. These guys have families, and those families, those people are affected forever in terms of what happened, to dad or brother or son at work that day, and so they're going to have to live with that forever. And so we're all kind of concerned about their well-being and about the department, and so we had to ask about it at the top of the show here. So we appreciate your willingness to talk about it. No,
I appreciate the department appreciates the support. This is never, that I know of, ever happened at the Wood County Sheriff's Department, an officer-involved shooting such as this, and it's new, and we're moving forward. Like I said, we had a lot of things in place that we had before this, but hoping we never had to use it. Like I had mentioned, this was a phone call that I had hoped that I'd never receive in my career, but we did, and we're moving forward. And like I said, thoughts and prayers go out to the family that lost a loved one as well.
All right, talking with Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker here on today's Insight program here on AM 1450 WDLB concerning the shooting that happened in Wood County. What day was that?
You know what? I couldn't say exactly, but it's within the last couple weeks.
Yeah, it was June. It was the evening of Tuesday, June 11th.
Okay, Tuesday night, June 11th. All right. So it's been fairly fresh yet, I would imagine, for you and the department.
Oh, yes. It's discussed every day. I talk with both deputies, at least every other day. Just checking on the department, checking on that shift is really important. Like right now, our focus as far as with the department is the officers' wellness, their well-being, their mental health. as we move forward. And we have a lot of things in place when people need it. What was mentioned before by Mike, the debriefing is so important. We found that to be over the years. You have to take care of the people that work for you. How do you expect them to take care of the community if we don't take care of them? And that mental health aspect of first responders and law enforcement officers is huge. It's huge nowadays. We lose too many good officers to, I wouldn't say suicide, but they just can't handle the career anymore, and there wasn't things in place to help them. And that's been a huge thing that we've been moving forward on. And like Ed mentioned, we have a lot of things in place for both, not only just the officers involved, but the department and other people that went to the scene. It's just an important thing as we move forward, getting through this situation.
Recap for us, the situation was that I don't know what you call it, the combatant, the initial call was made for was deceased. One deputy was wounded in the arm. Was there any other people wounded in that situation?
Yeah, the call came in as a welfare check from a family member to check on another family member. So 2 deputies responded to the address, began to speak with the initial person that called in, got that information, then spoke with the other person that we were performing the welfare check on, and throughout that information that we were getting, we contacted crisis intervention, and we're moving forward with a potential commitment. We didn't know, but that's the direction we're going. We were following protocol, and during that time frame, this incident happened. I can't literally release many details at this point. I'm sorry, because it's an ongoing investigation.
Okay, but there was 1 deceased and 2 wounded?
Correct. One person was as a result of being shot, and then another person that was in close proximity of the incident was also injured, and then so was Corey.
Well, we can only surmise as the public then that there was some wrestling going on, because
Correct.
You guys are pretty well versed in discharging your weapons in a direction that is, but there had to have been some physical altercation going on there, and things got out of hand.
Yeah, there was an altercation, and the person had a knife on them, and that's during that altercation the shooting happened. Again, it's the details I can't give you at this point. It's all on body camera footage, so at some point that might be released, but that'll be up to the DCI because they're handling the investigation.
Talking with Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker. You can too. 384-2191, 384-2191. Here it is, the final Friday of the month of June in 2019. You know that if you're listening live. If you're watching us here on Marshfield Media Access, just kind of setting up the responses that we're getting here, because as I always say, you know more about how the future turned out than we do here as you're watching this after it's already been recorded. So these things that he's talking about, you may already know. I don't know how much it's protocol to release. In today's world with body camera footage, I would imagine they will release the... I heard the scanner traffic. I was surprised to know that there is a way to find that out now. I used to sit there as a kid and play around with my little Bearcat and listen as I could, to the local channels. But now you can find that information, and at that time that was taboo. Yeah. Your communication was to be guarded, and just because it was interceptable with home consumer information, type of scanners, people... in the media we would do that, but other people would be like, well, we got rubberneckers and everybody else coming around here just to take a look to see what's happening anytime there's something going on. So you were very guarded in what you would say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you look at, the way technology is today, you can have a scanner on your phone, and there was no secret what was happening. It was very, the deputies were interacting, obviously, telling dispatch what was going on, and from being dispatched there to talking with crisis to when this tragedy happened, all that information is out there, and you're right, we had a lot of people coming out to the scene just because they're interested, and that was one of the first things that we had to make sure that we had secured, blocking off traffic. And yeah, that information is out there, and anybody can really get it, and you can even get the the dispatch transmissions just by filing open records request with dispatch, and that's already out there. That information has been provided.
Talking with Wood County Sheriff, I said it again. I've been doing that for so long, I almost went to the old sheriff. Shawn Becker here, my guest. Gosh, how long do you have to be in before I finally get
I don't know. You tell me.
In the interrogation room here. We'll be back with the sheriff. Your phone calls, too, here at 384-2191.
We just finished up on the economic discussion within the city. We had over 28 individuals that were leaders and council people from the city. And we learned quite a bit about what's going on with our city and our economic development. Well, I have Matt McLean. He is the director over at the Convention and Visitor Bureau. I just want to hear from him on what his thoughts were about tonight's meeting.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I think there were a lot of great discussion. We had multiple groups here, such as I'm the director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and then we also had the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street Marshfield, many board members, many city council members, city leaders. And, I think something that really was, I think, a hot topic tonight was talking about a lot of the visitors coming to town, and we actually had a record year with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. 3 huge events last year, Farm Tech Days, the National Trappers, and the State Square Roundhouse brought over 50,000 visitors and created $3 million of economic impact. And I think some of the folks were curious about how those visitors come to town and where they spend their money in town. And so that's something that is always it's a bit challenging. We had 32 baseball teams in town last weekend, and council person Mr. Jokic was interested. Do we know where they went to eat? Do we know how they spent their money? Do we know which hotels? And we have some data on that, but it really is really challenging to get the complete picture. And so we're going to provide more data for that, but also too that the State Department of Tourism puts out data that when visitors come to town, they typically spend $180 a night if they're staying in a hotel, or $58 a day if they're visiting. And so we do know that they bring money with them and spend it here when they come for sports tournaments, conventions, leisure. And so that's kind of our mission with the Convention and Visitor Bureau, is to bring the visitors here. And then that really ties in with, if we want to grow our community, you kind of have to be a visitor someplace first, that you say, hey, this is a great place, I want to live here, I'll look for a job, and and then find a house. And so we kind of touched on all those different elements tonight.
All right. Well, thank you for that information. Much appreciated. There's going to be more coming down the road. We'll hear more from you, Matt, as well as other city leaders, as well as Mackie. There's a lot to be happening in this great city.
You know that if you're listening live here on WDLB, but you could be watching us on Marshfield Media Access. This program being videoed, you can find access to it through the city's website and the local television 989 on your Charter digital tier. We will be in rotation here for, until the next program, I guess, is done. I've skipped a couple, and I've seen some of the old ones go for a couple months, and I thought, geez, that wasn't that interesting the first time. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, you're on a roll today, aren't you?
Yeah. I was all ready to go after you about what you said and what you meant and all that other stuff here, and I was going to do some real investigative journalism, and you told me nothing.
Oh, what do you mean nothing? I think I've given you some information that I can, at least.
That's what I was afraid of. Okay. That's always the case.
Maybe next month we can give you more.
And I'm hoping at some point in time you'll bring us.
Yeah, like I said, protocol, DCI, they try to stick to that 30-day time limit, and then it's up to the district attorney's office to review everything, and then make a statement at that point. So once everything is completed, the investigation and the review is done, then we could talk more, and then more press releases or at least records requests can be done, and that will be done through DCI, because they've done the investigation, and that's where we'll tell the media we'll have the contact information and say, okay, here is the direction you can go to make your requests. So that'll all become available once the investigation is completed.
And then they can print those reports.
I believe so. I mean, a lot of it you'll be able to get online if you go on Department of Justice's website and take a look. And I suggest at least the media do that so you know what you're going to get ahead of time, because there's other similar unfortunate situations out there that they've investigated that's available by open records requests. So. I would suggest people kind of look at that now so you can navigate, number one, that website and know what you're looking for. You might have some questions now that you'd like to ask that I can't answer, but maybe in the future you can, and they'll have that information for you.
Talking with Shawn Becker, Wood County Sheriff, here on this final Friday of the month. And, of course, it's the biggest thing that's happened in the department in a long time, so we have to talk about that, and there'll be more to talk about in the future. But you brought a guest here with you.
Yes, I did. And we finally got to her. All right.
Sitting here the whole time. If you're watching on television, who's that lady?
Marie Richards is our mental health. She oversees our mental health program in our jail. She's been with us.
It'll be a year next week.
Yeah. So she works full time in our jail and does an outstanding job dealing with and speaking with inmates. And I'll let her kind of give a little bit more of a specific role she has with our jail. But she's been doing just an outstanding job with inmates that are housed with.
And there'll be more to talk about in the future. But you brought a guest here with you.
Yes, I did. And we finally got to her. All right.
Sitting here the whole time. If you're watching on television, who's that lady?
Marie Richards is our mental health. She oversees our mental health program in our jail. She's been with us.
It'll be a year next week.
Yeah. So she works full time in our jail and does an outstanding job dealing with and speaking with. And I'll let her kind of a little bit more of a specific role she has with our jail. But she's been doing just an outstanding job with inmates that are housed with.
And there'll be more to talk about in the future. But you brought a guest here with you.
Yes, I did. And we finally got to her. All right.
Sitting here the whole time. If you're watching on television, who's that lady?
Marie Richards is our mental health. She oversees our mental health program in our jail. She's been with us.
It'll be a year next week.
Yeah. So she works full time in our jail and does an outstanding job dealing with and speaking with. And I'll let her kind of a little bit more of a specific role she has with. But she's been doing just an outstanding job with inmates that are housed with.
And there'll be more to talk about in the future. But you brought a guest here with you.
Yes, I did.
Sitting here the whole time. If you're watching on television, who's that lady?
Marie Richards is our mental health. She oversees in our jail. She's been with us.
It'll be a year next week.
Yeah. So she works full time in our jail. Speaking with, and I'll let her kind of a little bit more of a specific role she has with. But she's been doing just an outstanding job with inmates that are housed with.
And there'll be more to talk about in the future. But you brought a guest here with you.
Yes, I did.
Sitting here the whole time. If you're watching on television, who's that lady?
Marie Richards is our mental health. She oversees in our jail. She's been with us. Yeah. So she works full time in our jail. Speaking with, and I'll let her kind of a little bit more of a specific role she has with. But she's been doing just an outstanding job with inmates that are housed with.
And there'll be more to talk about in the future. But you brought a guest here with you.
Yes, I did.
Sitting here the whole time. If you're watching on television, who's that lady?
Marie Richards is our mental health. She oversees in our jail. She's been with us. Yeah. So she works full time in our jail. Speaking with, and I'll let her kind of a little bit more of a specific. But she's been doing just an outstanding job.
There'll be more to talk about in the future, but you brought a guest here with you.
Yes,
Tell me,
I did.
Sitting here the whole time, if you're watching on television, who's that lady?
Marie Rich. She oversees in our jail. She's been with us. Yeah, so she works full time in our jail. Speaking with, and I'll let her kind of a little bit more of a specific. But she's been doing just an outstanding job.
There'll be more to talk about in the future. Guest here with you.
Yes,
Tell me,
I did.
Sitting here the whole time, if you're watching on television, who's that lady?
Marie Rich. She oversees in our jail. She's been with us. Yeah, so she works full time in our jail. But she's been doing just an outstanding job. Outstanding job. Outstanding job. Outstanding job. Outstanding job. Outstanding job. outstanding job with
let's talk a little bit about what happened this evening. Is it up to the city to do this, or is it up to local businesses? Who is it up to make this happen?
You know, it's really up to all of us. When I say that, there's a lot of organizations that get funding and that are doing these types of things. You know, they're trying to attract visitors to the area, trying to attract businesses, trying to attract workforce. But it really takes all of us. We need to be positive. It's not all just the city. You know, there are some things the city can do, but it doesn't all fall on them. I know, you know, years ago people would say, well, this, you know, it's the city's fault that all these businesses are closing, or it's the city's fault that we don't have good roads. And there's so many things that are not just the city, it's the whole. And people, I think, when they're talking about that, that's what they're referring to. So I think what this really shows is that we are all trying to work together. We're trying to have one vision, one goal. I applaud the mayor for pulling us together, that we can all say, this is what we're doing. Here's some things we still need to do. And if I can reflect a little bit on the survey that was just done, there were 975 people that participated. That's a lot of people, and that's people that care about this community. But they should all be a part of this, and everybody can do their part.
Well, over 27 people came out to our economic development discussion meeting that the mayor had, and I have Matt McLean, director of the Convention and Visitor Bureau. Tell me a little bit about your insight of this meeting, what you've seen, what you feel about it. Is there a sense of energy?
Yeah, Tom, I think there was a lot of positive discussion. We're always talking about how the different organizations in town can work together. And so, like, between myself with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street Marshfield, the city, and many other partners, you know, about how we can communicate well with each other, kind of help each other in, you know, the issues that we were talking about tonight. I know we talked a lot about quality of life, quality of place, and business climate. And so, you know, I think there was some great discussions about how we can make Marshfield a better place. And that's kind of a focus for us with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Oh, timeout.
Well, it's just shot from the class people.
They just destroyed stuff.
They destroyed
Great.
everything. Everything's destroyed. I'm going to switch spots and make this look at.
We can try again.
Did we get anything out of that deal, or is it just too hot? It's just way too hot. No, I don't want to use junk. Okay. We'll make it pretty simple. Are we better now? Matt, you all right to hold for a minute?
I got time. No worries.
Are you good? All right. I'll move Matt over.
I don't
You
know.
don't
We'll
mind.
get a little cozy.
I don't like that personal.
We need to take a couple steps back. Would that help?
It just feels weird.
Okay.
All right. Are we good? I'm just letting them make that rack. Okay. We've had over 27 different leaders within the community, from city officials to people at. Is that really bad? It's like everything.
No banging on the tables, please. Please. Please.